Every man chasing an edge is looking in the same handful of places. More hours, more hustle, more information consumed before everyone else gets to it. Marcus Aurelius found his in the one place almost nobody's actually looking. How little his mind reacted to anything happening around it. Not passive, not peaceful for its own sake, the way it usually gets sold. A genuine operating advantage in an empire where every other man in the room was burning energy reacting to something, all day, every day. 3 things he actually did to build it, and the second one has nothing to do with meditation in the way you're picturing it, and everything to do with something you've probably been avoiding your entire adult life without ever naming it. Let's get into it. Here's the reframe worth sitting with before we get into the 3 specific things. Calm gets sold constantly as a wellness outcome, something you pursue so you feel better at the end of a long day. That's not what it was actually functioning as for Marcus, and treating it that way undersells the entire point. A man who doesn't react is a man whose decisions are being made by his actual judgment instead of his nervous system, in real time, while everyone else around him is burning cycles on the reaction itself before they even get to the decision. That's not a mood you're managing. That's a structural edge over every man in the room who hasn't built it. Method 1. He filtered for what compounds, not just what's necessary. Most men, when they try to simplify their lives, ask, "Is this necessary?" A reasonable-sounding question on its face that still lets a huge amount of low-value activity straight through the filter, because plenty of things are technically necessary without ever actually building toward anything durable. Answering emails is necessary. Attending most meetings is, in some loose sense, necessary. Necessary is a very low bar. Marcus ran a considerably sharper filter than that. He wasn't just cutting the unnecessary out of his day, he was actively asking which of his remaining obligations compounded, built towards something that would still matter in a year, versus which ones simply had to be tolerated once, handled, and then correctly forgotten. There's a real, documented mechanism behind why this distinction matters more than ordinary decluttering advice tends to acknowledge. Decision fatigue is a measurable phenomenon studied extensively in modern psychology. The quality of your choices degrades measurably the more low-stakes decisions you've already burned through earlier in the day, regardless of how minor or forgettable each individual one felt in the moment you made it. Every task you let onto your plate that doesn't actually compound toward anything is a withdrawal from the exact same mental account your best, highest-stakes decisions are going to need to draw from later that same day. Let me give you Derek's version of this. Derek's 44, ran a growing, contracting business, and for years treated every incoming request with the same weight and the same immediate attention, responded to it, handled it, checked it off his list, whether it was a conversation that would shape a 6-figure client relationship, or a vendor squabble that was going to resolve itself either way, with or without his input. By the time a genuinely important decision actually needed him, usually around 4 in the afternoon once the day's noise had accumulated, Derek had almost nothing left in reserve to actually bring to it. He was making his most consequential calls on his most depleted hours every single day, without ever noticing the pattern. Once Derek started sorting his day by one blunt, unforgiving question: does this compound, or does it just need to be tolerated and moved past? His afternoons started producing his best decisions of the day, instead of his worst ones, on the exact same number of working hours he'd always had available. Method 2, and this is the one that's actually the least talked about. He let himself be bored, on purpose, regularly. Here's what almost nobody covers about Marcus's actual daily practice, the part that gets skipped in favor of the more quotable material. Meditations wasn't written in a moment of dramatic crisis, dashed off during a battle or a plague outbreak for dramatic effect. Most of it, by every reasonable historical account of how and when he actually wrote, was composed in ordinary, unstimulated pockets of time. Private, quiet, deliberately undistracted, with genuinely nothing competing for his attention in that specific window of the day. He wasn't scrolling anything between decisions, obviously, but the modern equivalent is worth naming directly. He wasn't filling that gap with anything at all. He was sitting with nothing, on purpose, regularly enough that it became the actual engine behind the clarity everyone still remembers him for 2,000 years later. This is the one worth being genuinely honest with yourself about, more than either of the other two. Most men, the instant a gap opens up in their day, a line at a counter, a wait for someone, 5 idle minutes between meetings, fill it immediately and almost involuntarily with a phone because unfilled attention has quietly stopped feeling like a resource and started feeling like a problem that needs solving as fast as possible. But pattern recognition, the actual underlying skill behind good judgment under real pressure, requires unstimulated mental space to happen at all. It doesn't occur while you're actively consuming something else. A mind that's never idle never gets the chance to actually connect anything it's already taken in. Every man currently chasing an edge exclusively through more input, more content, more information, is skipping the exact condition that produced the sharp judgment he's trying to imitate in the first place. Try this tonight, not as meditation exactly, just as a straightforward practice. 5 minutes with nothing, no phone, no music, no task lined up to do next, and let your mind actually wander instead of immediately reaching for something to occupy the space. Most men, the first time they genuinely try this, can't make it past 90 seconds before reaching for a phone out of pure reflex. That discomfort itself is the actual signal worth paying attention to. It's a direct measurement of how starved for this specific condition your judgment currently is, whether you'd have guessed that about yourself beforehand or not. We're too in and worth naming the thread running underneath both. Neither of these was about feeling calmer in the moment. Both were about protecting the actual mechanism, decision quality, that calm was quietly funding the whole time. Method 3, and this is the one that turns the other two from nice habits into something urgent. Marcus wrote himself a standard worth carrying directly into tomorrow morning. Perfection of character is to live your last day, every day, without frenzy or sloth or pretense. Not frenzy, the scattered, reactive chasing most men default to whenever a deadline or an opportunity spikes their urgency artificially. Not sloth, the opposite failure, doing nothing at all because nothing currently feels urgent enough to bother starting. And not pretense, performing discipline for an audience, a following, a version of yourself you're curating for other people, instead of actually practicing it in private where nobody's keeping score. All three ruled out simultaneously, every single day, treated as though the day in front of him genuinely might be his last one. Because eventually, for reasons entirely outside his ability to predict or schedule around, one of them was going to be. He wrote himself the sharper, considerably colder version of the same idea elsewhere in the same journal. Soon you will have forgotten the world, and soon the world will have forgotten you. That's not despair dressed up as philosophy. It's the actual argument for why methods 1 and 2 matter enough to bother with today specifically, rather than once you finally feel ready, once the schedule clears up, once some more convenient version of this week arrives. A man operating with unlimited time available to him has no real reason to filter hard for what compounds over what's merely necessary, and no real reason to protect unstimulated thinking time over convenient, immediate stimulation. There's always tomorrow to start being disciplined. A man who's actually internalized how short the window genuinely is has every reason to do both of the first two methods, starting today, not eventually, not once conditions improve. Let's run through all three one more time. He filtered for what compounds, not just what's necessary. He protected unstimulated thinking time on purpose, instead of filling every gap with input. And he treated the shrinking clock as the reason to act now, not as a source of dread to manage later. None of this was inner peace pursued for its own sake. It was a working system, run daily, that happened to produce calm as a byproduct of better decisions, not the other way around. That's the actual reframe worth taking from this video. Stop chasing calm as a feeling, and start building the filter, the unstimulated space, and the urgency that calm was always downstream of in the first place. Which of these three is the one you're currently skipping? Tell me the number in the comments. I read every one, and my honest guess is most of you are skipping the boredom one, since it's the hardest to actually sit with. Thank you for being here. Filter hard, sit with nothing sometimes. Remember the clock is real,